Hilary is talking, of course, unlocking data for sustainability innovation. I'll hand over to you, and maybe we'll take some questions at the end.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, we'll start off with the video. Hi folks, I'm Hilary. I lead sustainability for Amazon Web Services here in EMEA, and I get the pleasure of working with customers who see sustainability for what it truly is, which is one of the most exciting commercial innovation opportunities of our time. It's super exciting to be here again. I was on this stage maybe 2 years ago, and just the shift in the landscape, it's super refreshing to hear the other side, right? You know, sustainability from being compliance, regulatory, reporting driven to actually how do we look at sustainability from a growth and value creation perspective, creating value for people, planet, and businesses. So hopefully today what I'll equip you guys with are just some mental models. We love mental models and frameworks at Amazon, but also just what we're seeing across our customer base. We've heard a lot around how we need to collaborate, and I think one of the spaces that organizations might not be leveraging fully is the technology space. And I think maybe just one stat to start helping us frame it is, you know, the fact that, 72% of survey respondents that we talked to said that, you know, it's undeniable that technology is going to play some sort of role in helping them reach their sustainability goals. And yet, less than a quarter of them are effectively leveraging technology to do so. So for us, that really seems like a massive opportunity space. And also, you know, it also puts together sustainability, technology, or IT, to traditionally non-revenue generating supporting enterprise functions who are now front and center in helping us reach our sustainability goals, but also in charting the path of how our organizations grow. So I think there was a talk earlier around making friends. If you are not already friends with your IT leader in your organization or that organization, make sure you reach out to them, because together it is really joining forces to make sure that sustainability is a strategic space. Because, you know, over the last couple of years, I think, you know, sustainability is one of the most creative roles, right? You're using, a lot of these soft skills around effective stakeholder engagement, all the way to problem solving and thinking about creative ways to work around under limited resources. And in the last few years, it's really moved into a very data collection, data analysis space, which again takes us away from that value creation opportunity. So I wanted to share one of these mental models, as I was saying. It's our AWS Future Fit framework. And we use this term future fit to really, describe the future of organizations. How do we continue to be successful, competitive, relevant in an increasingly carbon-intense, resource-constrained reality? And this is a mental model. It's not perfect, but hopefully it'll be useful. We use this to really help understand where our customers are in their sustainability journey and how we might be able to help. And this is really around how do we minimize those red bars, the negative operational impact you will have as a business. You're going to have emissions, you're going to create waste, you're going to consume resources, to actually increase the positive impact. Why does your business exist? Why, who are you here to serve? What purpose, if you will? And maybe I'll just start with level one, because at AWS, that's often where the conversation begins, which is, hey, by moving my workloads and operations from on-premise data centers to the cloud, what are some efficiencies I might be able to see? And once I'm on the cloud, how do I architect sustainably and in a considered way so that my technology foundation is as optimized and efficient as possible. So this might not be super relevant to folks in the room, but these are the conversations we're increasingly having with IT leaders, because sustainable IT, as folks know, with the rise of AI, has become top of the agenda. It's a big part of organizations' footprint that folks might not have been diving into until more recent times. But level 2, this is where it relates to most organizations who have a physical supply chain, right? Or physical assets or physical presence. All the things I mentioned, from energy optimization to looking at logistics and transport logistics to optimize. These are all of the kind of efficiencies, from waste reduction to water management, all the things that businesses have been looking for always, but now through the lens of sustainability and enabled by technology, how can we go further, faster? How can that add to the business case? And both these examples, or both these levels, are still very much in that operational space, and it moves us from sustainability as a cost center to cost savings, which is great. But where it gets really exciting, and I think the theme for today, is how do we turn it from this operational, this operational narrative into one of value creation and opportunity. And I think this is where it gets really exciting, because we know that there are a lot of solutions where you don't need to reinvent the wheel. If we've worked with a Coca-Cola bottler in Turkey with their water management, we probably might not, there's something we can leverage there to work with others in that same space. But the reality is, what we're seeing is a lot of these these technology-enabled sustainability solutions don't exist off the shelf. And I think now with increased accessibility and cost competitiveness, we're starting to see organizations bring some of this tooling into their own environment and building or customizing their own in-house solutions. And that's where it gets really exciting, because if you're having to build something that doesn't exist, it probably means that there's others in your supply chain, in your industry, that might also need that. So we're really amping this kind of piece up with how can we help customers who are innovating sustainability solutions to magnify their impact and also drive revenue by helping those solutions scale and be successful. So it's really a big shift in terms of how we think about sustainability into this, again, commercial business landscape, where the initiatives that are going to have an impact are the ones that either impact your bottom line, saving costs, or grow your top line, creating new revenue streams. And even though I've gone from kind of level 1 to 3, sometimes we do work with customers who want to imagine what the next 3 to 5 years look like and what it looks like with sustainability integrated into their business models. And that's where AWS, we're not just bringing kind of our technology and cloud-enabled capabilities. We're really also leaning in with our unique culture of innovation, where we're really working backwards with what that customer need is, to think big and really imagine what are the things that we can do together that we can't do on our own and couldn't do before. So this framework, hopefully it's something useful that you guys can take away, and maybe even having a rough kind of assessment in terms of your own business. You're going to have activities across every single one of these levels. Sustainability kind of cuts across. For us, so does technology, but it's going to be owned by different folks within your organization. Level 1, 2, more operational. Level 3, 4, that's where we're starting to talk to lines of businesses, product owners, and all the way to C-suite board level. So I wanted to have folks keep this in mind, because sometimes it's a big topic to tackle. And while we know that technology can play a significant role, we need to make sure that the impact doesn't outweigh the benefits, which is why AWS is relentlessly investing and innovating in the way that we design, build, and operate our data centers. So, this is all part of our overall Amazon goal to become net zero carbon by 2040. And I think maybe just a few highlights, because honestly, there's so much across the portfolio. And maybe one of the most obvious ones, especially in the tech space, is our innovation into designing our own chipset so that they are as energy efficient and cost performant as possible. And also, we have a commitment to be water positive by 2030, because we know that that is also a very scarce resource that we're having to steward and manage. So this is just a high level in terms of things that we're doing. Happy to talk more after this. But today, what I really wanted to focus on is data. I think there's been calls for the sustainability practitioners, leaders in this room to lean into business, lean into the complexity. And not saying you need to all become super techie overnight, but I think also leaning into technology and being open to the tools that are out there to help us do our jobs in a more faster and efficient way that also enables us to then lean into our expertise to do what is actually the more complex work that requires, critical problem solving and thinking versus the kind of data collection. Because we know data collection is hard, right? I don't need to tell folks in this room. Sometimes it's siloed, it's all over the place. If you're even collecting data, we've seen stats where 86% of organizations are still collecting data on spreadsheets. So I'm not going to single folks out, but who's not collecting data on spreadsheets and using a very integrated, hands up? Okay, cool. Great stuff. And I think folks will probably be tapping on you to get some learnings. And I think that's where data is our bread and butter, right? We have guidance around developing a sustainability data fabric. And this is really a framework around best practices to manage your data, your sustainability data, in a way that ensures that there's trust, there's security, it's accessible, and it's useful. Because right now, let's face it, the data that we are collecting, again, often siloed, not integrated, and also lots of error, highly manual, time intensive. So I'm going to get into a really techie slide. Don't worry, you don't need to understand it fully, but just to talk through, this is how we're thinking about data. And don't be afraid, because it is not just from a sustainability perspective, but this is how our companies are modernizing, right? So the sustainability data fabric, just saying, just some of the key components, is really around how do we collect and connect data from various sources. So again, it might be spreadsheets. You might already have some of that data in your existing ERP systems. You might have started your journey with SAP. It's being able to take all these different sources of data to ingest them in a way where we remove kind of the need for manual extraction and translation. I mean, think about the folks who work in your team who would be like, oh my God, this is exactly what I do not want to be doing. But then it's the data management capabilities that's also really important, right? So things like user access. For the first time, I mean, there is definitely a role for regulation and reporting. CSRD is driving a once-in-a-generation data transformation, right? For the first time, all of this operational data is coming online. A lot of folks who have not worked with data in that way are also coming online. So access controls in terms of who can access, contribute, edit, and that traceability of data is super important, we're seeing. Data cataloging, what do we even have? Who owns it? When was it added? What was changed? How do we access it? And then another one is around data lineage. As we know, as data quality improves, our numbers are going to go up, maybe down, maybe up, and we need to be able to track that for assurance. So those are some of the capabilities. But then, that third piece is, how do we turn it into useful data? How do we present it in a way and have it in our operations where the folks who will find this useful can access it? How do we ensure that it taps into and speaks to all of the other solutions that we have going on? How do we do things like reporting as a result? But I think what's most exciting is that fourth bit, because once you have this data foundation, you're able to leverage that data to whatever use case that you encounter. So whether that's operational or commercial. And I think that reduces the duplication of efforts. Like right now, folks who are talking to your suppliers are collecting data. Folks who are focusing on energy optimization, they're also looking for data, right? There's a lot of duplication here, whereas having this foundation then allows you to tap into whatever data sets is needed to accelerate those use cases. And reporting has been a very dominant one, but if you're investing in this data transformation for reporting, it's a cost center. What is that data going to tell your business around how do we create a better customer experience? How do we feed this data into our product R&D teams? All of a sudden, this data becomes super valuable and, again, positions sustainability as a value add to the organization rather than a cost center. So, it's a very powerful thing to be leveraging right now. And as folks are thinking about it, organizations are taking that leap. And again, it's not just being driven by sustainability, but the modernization of business. So let's make sure that sustainability is a function that does not get left behind. And yeah, like moving again from that kind of data collection analysis role to actually what can we unlock? How do we think about this in the creative way that we can, having that view across all of our organization? So I just wanted to touch on one of the examples. We talked a little bit about the potential savings from not operating, running, building your own data centers and moving to the cloud. But I think what's really exciting is the outsized potential you have to do for organizational decarbonization once you're on the cloud. And we partnered with McKinsey to do a bit of research to understand what are some of those cloud-enabled technologies that will help us decarbonize faster. Because again, it's not about reporting. We now have the goals, the targets, and it's time for action. So what we found were three things, right? Leveraging cloud technologies and access to data, we're actually able to identify areas where you're reducing cost and reducing carbon at the same time. So being able to surface these win-win, low-hanging fruit, no-brainer kind of situations to get started on. But also cheaper decarbonization, leveraging technology to reduce the cost of some of these decarbonization levers. And then finally, faster decarbonization, accelerating availability of some of these decarbonization initiatives by around 20%. So you can kind of see the curve. And time is of the urgency, and also demonstrating that commercial value, because what we've done here is we've leveraged the sustainability data fabric foundation that I just kind of talked through, and we've combined it with McKinsey's proprietary IP, their Catalyst Zero library, which is their experience through working with organizations all around the world, from fishing boats in Japan to manufacturers in Germany, to turn it into an automated tool so that organizations can integrate this into their environment to create what is called a MAC. So for folks who are at that stage, MACs are crucial in the decarbonization journey. It's a marginal abatement cost curve. It helps us understand, like, hey, if I've set a goal to decarbonize and get to net zero by 2040, where do I even start? What are the levers that are going to be the best bang for buck? How long is it going to take? What's the decarbonization potential? what if I sequenced it this way? How would it look differently if I moved the time frame forward, backwards? And again, this is about building the business case, right? This is gonna equip organizations with a roadmap along with the cost, but also areas where some of these initiatives can be NPV positive, right? Actually generating more value than what it actually costs. So typically, the process or the problem that we've been trying to solve is creating a MAC, a curve for your organization is quite time intensive. Lots of data analysis, lots of data inputs, and also it is quite, it's manual and it's static. So pretty much as soon as you've invested all that time, resource, working with your partners or consultants, it's pretty much out of date because there's new data, there's new technology, there's new innovations and things that are constantly changing. And I don't know, I mean, I've been in the situation where, you know, your board then asks a question of like, well, you know, what if we looked at it this way? Or why do we need to do this now? And how will it impact the cost if we do it later? And that's like, okay, great, you know, here we go for another however many weeks to try and figure that out. Whereas with the AutoMac, you can integrate that into your systems, again, leveraging SDF with all the connectors, all of your data in, to be able to reconfigure in real time some of those scenarios and be able to give that evidence-based, data-driven case back to your board. And to be able to play around with it. You know, you can look at it at group level, you can look at it at business unit level. So it's super exciting, you know, in terms of that capability to just really move us from reporting to action. And yeah, you know, allowing prioritization and all of those things. But I think, you know, the other thing is it's, you know, maybe just touching on this a little bit, you know, it also allows you to identify those areas where you can work with your partners to accelerate and implement those levers already, right? And again, you're able to equip your team with this tool so that they're spending less time on analysis and data collection to do the hard work, which is execution, implementation, and figuring out how do we actually bring these levers to life. And when it comes to kind of the solutions, again, you know, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. There are a lot of amazing digital solutions out there already that customers can adopt. You know, across those 6 areas, those are the most common business use cases that we're seeing so far. And we have an ecosystem of partners who are really, you know, have solutions that are ready to go. Might need some customization depending on how complex your environment is. But then also for those enterprises who either have a really complex environment or looking to build, or, you know, folks who do see the commercial opportunity and are looking to innovate in this space because, you know, they see that their end customers are demanding sustainability solutions, products or services. That's where our solutions library is also full of goodies, from guidances to services to solutions that you can kind of use as building blocks to get started. And again, you know, we're not asking the sustainability profession to take this on board. This is really partnering with your technology partners who also tend to have quite healthy budgets. You know, large enterprises, IT is about 4% of revenue. So, you know, CFO, CIO, CTO, who knows? That's your group. And also, I think the other thing I wanted to point out is, especially for those organizations where your leaders don't quite see sustainability as a revenue driver or a value creation potential, sometimes, again, that potential is already in your data. Whether or not you go on to create a solution or a product out of it, in making your data useful, what you'll find, especially, for example, if you're a forester and you have precision forestry data, like that's going to be super important for operational excellence, to help your suppliers have that full transparency in their supply chain, but even also feed into, you know, the future of nature credits. So all of a sudden, folks are starting to see the value of their data, and you know, we do have the AWS Data Exchange where folks can sell their data, that passive income, start to show the value of this kind of sustainability, but then also buying data in terms of how it might fuel and input into your solutions. We've also got, the Amazon Sustainability Data Initiative. There is data out there that should be a public good to help organizations in the kind of scientific academia space help us progress in understanding what we need to do. So this program is really to help democratize data and make it easier to access the tools and to host that data set so others can tap into it. And finally, folks who are developing, innovating solutions, we also do have a marketplace where we want that to be the go-to spot where folks are looking for digital sustainability solutions and can scale and be successful with us. Very quickly, folks who are in London visiting, make sure you go to the Natural History Museum. They have their new gardens where we've partnered with them to build a sensor network to help us better understand the interaction between cities and nature. This is a great example of how this data is hoping to feed into policy, decision-making, businesses as well. And yeah, we are seeing, commercial sector customers who are really leveraging data, again, to create solutions that don't just address challenges within their own four walls, but turn it into opportunity. So with that, I'll just leave you with a few journal prompts, thoughts, right? How is sustainability influencing your strategy, your decision-making? What do you wish you could do, from scenario modeling to forecasting, things that you don't have visibility of right now, and what would make that easier? And finally, how do we turn it into an opportunity? So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.